How the devil are we all? I am very well. Why is that not on the screen? Oh, good lord. Apologies, everybody. Steve won't appear on the screen for some reason. Oh, sod it, I can't be bothered.
I am really here though, everybody.
He is really here. I promise you, I'm not doing like a great piece of voice acting or anything. But for some reason, I can't get him up on the screen. Doesn't matter. This is Drinking MAGA Tears Week, day 4, the penultimate day of the week, and I'm joined by the one and only Steve Shives.
Hello, my friend. Thank you for inviting me to drink some tears with you.
Yes, and I hope you've come unquenched because, frankly, you might drown otherwise. Yes, so you joined Crispy and I on election day, and it's been what 9 days since, and they still aren't over it, are
they? No, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really kind of, I don't know, like I have like a combination of really, really loving it, but also this sort of constantly unfolding horror at everything, because it's like this can't this can't really be happening, right? I mean, these people, they can't possibly be serious about this, but I think they are.
Yeah.
You know, like
yeah, absolutely. So what have you made of the last over a week now? The shenanigans have been incredible.
It's both, in hindsight, it's both incredible but completely expected. And I feel like it's just the latest version of what I have felt during the entire Trump administration, where Trump or his supporters or the people in his administration will do something or say something, and my first response is, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. And then I think about it for 2 seconds and I think, oh no, of course that's what they did. That's what we all expected them to do. That's completely consistent with their character to do that. Like, the guy lost the election, and yeah, the first night it was kind of touch and go because we hadn't had, totals come in from a lot of key states. And even though by the end of election night, most people saw that maybe Biden was a little bit ahead. And we assumed, as people had been telling us all along in the run up to the election, people were saying it could go down this way, where on election night, we just maybe Trump is a little bit ahead or Biden is a little bit ahead, but we're not really sure. And then once all of the absentee ballots and the mail-in ballots, et cetera, have been counted, then we will know for sure who the winner is. And those votes will probably favor Biden because Democrats seem to be using those methods to vote a lot more often than Republicans. And that's exactly what happened. And yeah, it took us a few days to get to the point where they could call enough states to officially project Biden the winner of the Electoral College, but it went down pretty much how people were saying it would go. And yet the Trump and the Republicans are acting like this is some shocking turn of events that nobody could have anticipated. And it's, they're talking about things like Trump saying, like, they keep finding votes. Like, do you counting them? Is that what you mean when you say they're finding votes? You mean they're counting the votes?
Well,
it's amazing.
It's not just the finding votes meme, and frankly, it's a meme. It's not anything real. It's the miraculously he managed to win the vote. No, they counted all the votes. That's not miraculous. That's literally just how mathematics works. Like, I mean, there's nothing miraculous or special or interesting about it, frankly.
And it's what everybody said was going to happen. That's the thing that boggles my mind. It's like, none of this is surprising. None of this is surprising. This is exactly what people said would happen. And, it's not, because some people have compared it to the 2000 general election and Bush versus Gore, and it's nowhere near that. Bush versus Gore came down to a few hundred votes in one state. Biden won a clear majority of the Electoral College. It's not one state, and he didn't win any, and none of the crucial states that put him over the top. I mean, the margins are relatively close, historically speaking, but he's still winning by tens of thousands of votes. He's not winning by a couple hundred votes. So it's not, I mean, it may not be a landslide, but it's certainly not a nail biter. I mean, he clearly won.
Yeah. And it's not a landslide. It's not the landslide I think a lot of people were hoping and indeed predicting.
No.
But considering that it's the exact same electoral college outcome as 4 years ago, and that was a repudiation of the evil globalists and a clear mandate for him to drain the swamp and blah, blah, blah. The fact that they're now saying that this is, well, he narrowly squeaked it out, so maybe they call it a timeshare and Biden gets it Monday through Wednesday and then Trump does the rest of the week. Like, the stages of grief they're going through. Some of them are at bargaining, some are at anger, some are at desperate fucking depression. Some I believe are starting to realise, and that might be good, but I don't know. Anyway, but the president himself is not one of those people, unfortunately.
No, and I think, like, one of the things that I'm enjoying the most, and again, it's enjoyment mixed with embarrassment and horror that we are even at this point, like just embarrassment for my country. Not that that's anything new over the last 4 years, especially, but it's the flailing. It's the fact that it's basically just Trump and his diehards just flailing and throwing a tantrum and complaining about stuff, and they have absolutely no plan moving forward. This has been reported by multiple media outlets based on interviews off the record, of course, with people who are in the situation, who work at the White House, who are close to Trump and his people, who are saying, despite the tone of his tweets, where he's like almost every day since the election was called, he's tweeted like, no, we're going to win, and they're finding all this evidence of voter fraud, and I clearly won the election, and this is all going to get reversed. They have absolutely no plan to do that. There is no strategy for how they are going to reverse the result of the election. There's no strategy at all. Nobody in the White House, apparently, perhaps not even Trump himself, seriously expects that he's going to come out on top on this. It's all just ego and tantrum and pitching a fit and this weird self-defeating form of political theater where, and again, something that Trump has done repeatedly throughout his administration, where he basically craps his pants in public and then declares victory because of that.
Yeah.
And that's what he's doing. He's and it's, like I say, it's equal parts delicious and absolutely mortifying.
It is, and I can only imagine the fucking shame. Well, I can't just imagine it, because in Britain we're going through a similar thing, albeit in our own unique fashion. But the embarrassment on behalf of Americans, I'm genuinely shocked. And this is, I think, the thing you were sort of referring to. I'm sharing with you. Hopefully you can see that, Steve.
Yes.
But no one else can on my screen now, so I need to go into the tab, don't I? And then hide that. No, don't need to hide that. Oh, fuck's sake. There we go. Jesus. Smooth, Kev.
You'll figure it out.
Well, I managed to get you on the screen just in time for us to click off you to go onto Twitter. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But it also looks like you've got a Batman parrot, which is on your shoulder, which is quite nice. Or a photo. But anyway, shut up, Kev. Right. This being reported out of the White House. Trump is, quote, very aware there is not a path to victory, unquote, but he believes the 72 million who voted for him, quote, deserve a fight, unquote. So he's battling as a form of, quote unquote, theatre for them, a top White House aide tells me. Which is very true, but as Dave Weigel points out, at what point do we just think that these people no longer deserve anonymity as sources? Because this is really dangerous. This isn't just embarrassing and theatre. This is going to get people killed, potentially.
Yeah, well, because it's undermining the integrity of the election process, which Trump has done for the entirety of this election campaign. He's repeatedly, incessantly, on an almost daily basis, I mean, on the run up to the election itself, and now since the election has taken place, talking about massive amounts of voter fraud that just didn't happen, and there's no evidence for them at all. And yeah, you're right. It is dangerous. It is a form of theater in the sense that he has no actual strategy for translating his rhetoric into results. But this is the president of the United States who clearly lost an election, refusing to accept the result. And even if he ultimately does, vacate the White House and Biden is allowed to assume the office to which he has been rightfully elected, it's still incredibly dangerous and sets a terrible precedent for the guy who clearly lost the election to refuse to accept the election result on the basis of absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
That's the, I mean, if there was evidence that he had somehow been cheated out of it, yes, of course, fight like hell. There's no evidence at all that anything like that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, not just that, but you can tell there's absolutely nothing to any of these claims because they were literally saying before the election, including Trump himself, that the only way he could lose is if they cheated. So he's already setting up the argument he was going to make and is now making. It's a farce.
Yeah. And you can tell that he's yeah, you're right. He's basically just going through with what he planned to do all along, unless he had actually won the election, in which case he would have said, "See, I told you the polls were all wrong," But since he lost, he's doing exactly what he told us he was going to do to begin with. And you can tell that it's performance. You can tell that it's theater. You can tell that there's nothing to it because Trump and his representatives have been telling two completely different stories. There's the story that they tell to the public, which is, we're going to win. And, like even the Secretary of State saying, we're going to transition to a second Trump administration. We're not even thinking about what's going to happen if we have to leave office and Biden takes over. Like they're completely parroting the Trump line from Twitter that, no, we won and there's going to be a second term. And, but when they get to court and they're asked for evidence, which they claim they have nothing.
Yeah.
Like Rudy Giuliani has come out publicly multiple times in the last week or so and just bragged about, oh my God, we're finding all this evidence. We found thousands and thousands of pages of evidence of mass voter fraud that's going to overturn this election result and prove that this election was stolen from Trump. And yet when they actually get into court, they have nothing. They have absolutely nothing. There was a really interesting video by Legal Eagle a couple days ago where he made the point that even if you look at the actual lawsuits that the Trump campaign has brought so far in the various states where they're trying to contest the result, even if they won all of those lawsuits, they wouldn't be able to get enough ballots thrown out to change the result. Yeah. Like, even if you give them everything they're actually asking for in court, it's not enough to change the election result. They have absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And yet they carry on with this.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, they, like you say, they even if they won all of these lawsuits, they wouldn't actually achieve anything ultimately. But the point is, they can't even do that because they're all being tossed out by judges who must be getting pretty pissed off to the point of it being borderline vexatious at this point because it's a joke. They're just being thrown out. Basically,
yeah. Well, because they're asking for things. Yeah.
Yeah, go on, Steve.
Well, no, they're asking for things like we want, and I think one of the only lawsuits where they've actually had a little tiny bit of success, I think it was in Pennsylvania. The judge granted them the right to have observers stand a little bit closer to the ballot counters. Exactly, like that's not going to overturn the election.
And not just that,
okay.
Do you know the exact distances? Yeah. It was from 10 feet to 6 feet away.
To 6 feet.
I don't know that 4 feet.
That's a game changer.
4 feet closer is necessarily going to overturn a 70,000 majority in Pennsylvania or whatever. Not just that, but it's Schrodinger's ballots, because apparently not only were they, Trump said 100 feet away, Kelly McEnany said several hundred feet away, which I don't even know what building that would be. Several hundred feet away. It's a fucking aircraft hangar next to an aircraft hangar.
Yeah, I know.
And that, but they were so far away that they couldn't properly see what was happening with the ballots. But they were also close enough to see that some of the ballots had suspiciously similar handwriting. How do you do both of those things?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Like, it's impossible.
Exactly. It's well, and as a lot of people have pointed out, even if they had a case, even if it was completely reasonable of them to say our observers should be allowed to stand closer, that is not evidence of anything, right? The fact that their observers thought that they should be standing closer is not evidence that's not election fraud. There's no evidence that ballots are being mishandled, or that ballots that shouldn't be counted are being counted, or anything like that.
Yeah,
but it's like it all goes into the same pool. Like, basically, Trump takes everything and throws it into the same pool, and it's like, well, our observers want to be able to stand closer, and they're not being allowed to. Therefore, that's voter fraud, and it's just ridiculous.
And of course, it applies across the board, because the vote observation team that they claim weren't allowed in, there were 134 Republicans in that building. There were 134 Democrats and 134 independents, and that ruling applies to all of them. They'd all previously been 10 feet away, and now they can all now stand 6 feet close. Who cares?
Right.
It's not. That's not voter fraud. That's literally just social distancing. That's it.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. It's, and then there were people complaining about things that were probably just the result of just them not understanding how things work, because there are people who aren't experienced poll watchers or observers of ballot counting, who are looking at things that are probably completely normal but strike them in their ignorance as unusual. Like, there was a story I saw on Twitter of somebody, one of the ballot workers, he was accused of committing some kind of fraud, because they said he was feeding empty ballots into the machine, and it turned out what was happening was the ballot counting machines occasionally need to be lubricated, and after the machines are lubricated, it's sort of standard practice to throw some empty ballots into them just to kind of wick off the excess oil or lubricant or whatever. It's like a completely normal part of the process that is demanded, because those machines have been worked 24 hours a day to count all these ballots. And if you don't know any better, and you have this suspicious eye of like, oh, I've got to look for every single, possible anomaly and attribute that to malicious intent, then they bring up something like that and say, aha, see, they're trying to steal the election. It's ridiculous.
Yes, indeed so. And I'd planned on maybe doing a little bit on Trump, but even in my preparation for this show, Trump, it's difficult. This is why, if you remember, 4 years ago, you joined me and Christy and Christiosity for a thing. You'd been to the Women's March, so I feel like Steve and I and various other people, in terms of content creators, have been on this 4-year journey together. Not always necessarily side by side, but together we've been through all of this nonsense. And I started at the start of the Trump thing. I was going to do a weekly show called the Trump Dump, but you find it's impossible to actually keep up with him. He pumps out such a torrent of shit all the time. It's impossible. And he caught me again today, because I was trying to prepare for this. I was putting together bits and bobs we were going to look at and stuff. And then he throws in this absolute nonsense at the last second, a curveball that you've got no chance, but you've already started to swing. It's impossible. Anyway, so Trump, he tweeted out this fucking drivel. Hopefully Steve can see this. Quote,
yeah, I can see it.
All caps lock, naturally, because he's a grown-up. Report, Dominion deleted. Dominion is a tech company which runs some of these counting systems. Again, and this is untrue. I didn't need to really say that, but it is. Deleted 2.7 million Trump votes nationwide. Data analysis finds 221,000 Pennsylvania votes switched from President Trump to Biden. 941 Trump votes deleted. States using Dominion voting system switched 435,000 votes from Trump to Biden. The source for that is One American News, naturally. So believable stuff. And it's already been debunked within about 2 hours, which is nice. US President Donald Trump, who lost...
Yeah, well,
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, it's just, I feel like it just feeds into that mentality that they have of if we say it, then it's true. You know, like Trump trusts his preferred media sources so much that, like, you know, all he has to, if OAN or any other media outlet says anything that he likes, well, then it's obviously true, you know?
Yeah, indeed. So this, the tweet's already been proven false, basically. He lost his re-election bid, has spent his time since firing high-ranking officials playing golf, lying about Dominion, a company that provides hardware and software for ballot counting. Driven by false reporting from far-right organisation One News Network, the narrative spun a swiftly mistake into a mirage of widespread voter fraud. At the heart was an error in Antrim County, Michigan, which, by the way, wouldn't have made any difference because he won by 150,000, was it, in Michigan in the end? Which authorities announced on Facebook on November the 4th, so the day after the election. Software was not updated properly. It was then fixed and ballots were recounted. So the numbers there are nonsense. Dominion found a problem, recounted the votes. It's absolutely fine. So he's lying, completely lying. Brilliant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's basically like a conspiracy theorist who, you know, like after the Sandy Hook mass shooting, they would fixate on media stories that were reported like within the first couple hours of the shooting that contained details that turned out to not be true, that were later corrected. But they look at the incorrect and reporting and they're like, aha, see? You know, like that proves anything other than that it was just a confusing situation and eventually it was corrected.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's even worse.
It's even worse when it's ridiculous.
It's even worse when it's Trump, though, because with Alex Jones, when he says he's got the government documents, you know he's lying. Whereas this motherfucker should have the government documents. So his lies are even worse because he knows the truth, or at least could find out the truth if he intended to know the truth. But he doesn't, so... There you go. But talking of his preferred news networks, he's become so bunker mentality. He literally has become the downfall meme of Hitler. It's embarrassing. That even Fox News, an organisation which has sucked his dick relentlessly for the last 5 fucking years and more, they defended him during the birth of stuff even before then. They've gone to war with them now because they called... rightly, the great state of Arizona, and then latterly the presidency for Joseph Robinette Biden. Robinette's an amazing middle name, by the way. It's good stuff.
It is.
Yes, Fox News. Daytime ratings have completely collapsed. Weekend daytime, even worse. Very sad to watch this happen. But they forgot what made them successful, what got them here. And this is a perfectly normal sentence for an adult to say. They forgot the golden goose. Not sure about that one. The difference between the 2016 and 2020 election was Fox News, which, I mean, that sad last bit's really sad because he's basically saying I can't win an election without Fox News, which is pathetic. Yeah.
And of course, and referring to himself
as the golden goose. Yeah. That's, like I say, as an adult, that's a really, really weird thing to say, Donald. Fucking hell.
It is. Well, but it just, you know, the whole thing, like none of this is anything that anybody who has paid attention should not have expected. Yeah. But it reaffirms so much of what we have seen about Donald Trump and his cult of supporters over the last few years. Is like, he's so preoccupied with ratings. He's so preoccupied with the appearances of things. It's you know, we talk about a lot of what makes this so enjoyable is how blatant the double standards are, you know. And because there are people, for years we've heard people, and Kevin, you've talked about them on your channel a lot, and a lot of other people have talked about, like, the people on the right who accuse progressives and people on the left and SJWs of, not caring about facts and having this weird sort of misinterpretation of postmodernism, where they're like, nothing is real, and there are no facts, and there is no reality, and yet that is exactly what Trump is doing here. He doesn't care about the facts. He doesn't care about reality. He thinks that apparently, if you follow his tweets and you try to apply some kind of logic to the arguments he's making, he thinks he lost the election because the TV networks say he lost the election. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Giuliani was in that one of those press conferences. Giuliani was talking about the fact that the networks had called the race for Biden as though that was somehow legally binding, when that was just journalists reporting something that had happened. They had counted enough votes to conclude that Biden had won, so the news outlets reported it. They didn't actually do anything to affect the result. They reported the result. But Trump is upset at them for saying he lost.
Well,
because he lost.
Well, that's like saying, well, someone gets murdered. Well, the news don't decide that someone got killed today. Well, no, obviously not. But they're reporting that a thing happened. They didn't make the murder happen or something. They're not the judge of the case. They're just reporting a thing. But let us not gloss over the fact that particular press conference happened not desperately far from yourself, although a fair drive to Philadelphia, at the Four Seasons Total Landscaping. What did you make of that? Absolutely fucking delicious piece of grubby incompetence.
So here's the thing. Here's what I love about it, because there's a story in the New York Times that tries to explain how that happened, and apparently it's not exactly the way we all sort of assume that it must have happened, because the natural assumption is, they meant to book a press conference at the Four Seasons Hotel and they accidentally booked it at the Four Seasons landscaping place because they're shits and they have no idea what they're doing, which is completely plausible. But apparently, incredibly, they wanted to book it at that place all along. And the reason that there was confusion was because when they told Trump that they were going to hold this press conference at the Four Seasons landscaping place, Trump assumed that they meant Four Seasons, the hotel, and tweeted that out initially. And the reason that they wanted to hold it at the Four Seasons landscape place, right across from the dildo shop, is because that is one of the few neighborhoods of Philadelphia where there were actually a lot of Trump supporters. So they thought if they could hold the event there would be less of a chance that they would be protested, because in other spots around Pennsylvania, when they had attempted to hold, and the other states too, Georgia and et cetera, when they had attempted to hold press conferences to push their conspiracy theory narrative about how Trump had the election stolen, protesters had shown up and drowned them out. And like even the reporters who had been there to report on what they were saying could not make out what they were saying because the protests were so loud. So they held it in front of the landscaping place to avoid protesters, which is even more pathetic than if they had just gotten it wrong and booked the wrong place.
Well, do you want to see this? I mean, I think I played this on Monday or Tuesday, whenever it was. But as you're an American, I think it might be quite insightful for you to see how the British Broadcasting Corporation, one of the foremost news-gathering organisations on planet Earth, reported on the calling of the election for Joe Biden and the press conference that then ensued with Giuliani. Because this is a live broadcast, how this man keeps a straight face, I do not know.
Donald Trump's defeat was announced while the president was playing golf, and when his campaign was setting up in a gardening firm's yard just by an adult bookstore.
Can you hear that, Steve?
This story starts with Donald Trump tweeting that there will be a press...
damn it. So I have to go onto the thing. Sorry, this is... I have to share... You can only share one tab with sound, I think, is the problem. Which is really annoying. But anyway. Hopefully you can now hear this.
Donald Trump's defeat was announced while the president was playing golf.
I can hear that.
And his campaign was setting up in a gardening firm's yard just by an adult bookstore and a crematorium. This story starts with Donald Trump tweeting that there would be a press conference on Saturday morning at the Four Seasons in Philadelphia. People assumed he meant here, the Four Seasons Hotel.
Well, can I just say, I mean, I'm not entirely sure I buy if they genuinely meant to hold it at the thing, but it could be possible, though, because it sounds plausible on the basis that Rudy Giuliani's brain has turned into such mush that he's done a thing that made Donald Trump seem reasonable by thinking it was the Four Seasons Hotel, which would be an appropriate place to hold such an event, rather than between a fucking adult bookstore called Fantasyland and a fucking crematorium. Anyway. American democracy, everyone. Yay.
Oh, God.
But another tweet followed with a clarification. No, not the hotel, but Four Seasons Total Landscaping, a gardening company in an industrial area on the outskirts of Philadelphia. The Washington Post took in the arc of Donald Trump's presidency with this story headlined, "It began on a gold escalator. It may have ended at Four Seasons Total Landscaping." The article quotes the company's director of sales. "I have no idea why the campaign wants to do it here. Maybe they saw a satellite image that we have a big back lot and proximity to Interstate 95. Well, whatever the reason..."
I especially love that bit because, like, this is the president's lawyer. Like, they could have entire streets shut down and a presidential motorcade. They could have fucking not Air Force One, what do you call it? Marine Force One land on the top of any building they fucking want to at any time. But they need access to Interstate 95. Bless him.
The Trump campaign had made its decision and set up in the yard. As you can see from these pictures, it was a low-key affair. A sign attached to the wall, a podium, some journalists, some Trump supporters. A few doors down, the adult bookstore, Fantasy Island, and just across the street from the local crematorium. And it was here that President Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, learned that his man had lost.
What was it called by? Oh my goodness, all the network.
And you can see behind him there the presidential fire hose. Definitely.
All the network.
Yes.
We have to forget about the law. Judges don't count.
Well, Richard Hall, a journalist for The Independent, was there. He wrote this article, which starts, "It began with a tweet from the president. It ended with his personal lawyer in the parking lot of a landscaping company, struggling to be heard over a man in his underpants shouting about George Soros." And here's how he described that final moment.
I think it was around 5 minutes before Mr. Giuliani came out that one of the journalists announced that the race had been called. And then journalists started to leave this big press conference that had been called by the president and his lawyers. So it was a very strange scene. And then out on the street, immediately outside, you had people starting to celebrate and Trump supporters clashing with Biden supporters. So it was a very strange place to hear the result.
Remember, the press conference had been called to draw attention to the Trump campaign's claims that the election has been stolen. No evidence was offered, but more broadly, it certainly drew attention. 2 days on, the event at the Four Seasons continues to generate stories from Politico, USA Today, The Atlantic, South China Morning Post. The list is a long one, but credit where credit's due. The Philadelphia Inquirer has been doing a lot of the heavy lifting on this story, publishing a detailed account of the whole thing. It tells us the 78-year-old employee manning the counter at the Fantasy Island sex shop said the phone had been ringing off the hook since Saturday with callers asking, "Is Rudy Giuliani there?" Well, the team at Four Seasons Total Landscaping appears to have taken this in their stride. In response to criticism online, it's posted on Facebook saying it would proudly host any presidential candidate's campaign at our business. Maybe it will become a fixture in Pennsylvanian politics. It's certainly been quick to see an opportunity. Go online now and you can buy a range of Make America Rake Again and Lawn and Order merchandise. And while they quite reasonably make the most of the attention, it remains unclear whether the Trump campaign booked the whole thing in error or not. Either way, at 11:24 on Saturday morning, America reached a historic moment. CNN announced Joe Biden as the president-elect, Donald Trump played golf, and his campaign was in a car park by Fantasy Island.
What a finishing sentence that is to a piece. Fucking hell.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I mean, I will give Trump's people credit for this much somehow, and I would never have anticipated this, but somehow after 4 straight years of this, they still find ways to do shit that is so absurd and so inexplicable that we still look at it and go, I cannot believe this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, no, to be
I
fair,
don't know how that's possible.
To be fair, he is the golden goose in terms of ratings. It's ridiculous to say it about yourself, but it's undoubtedly true on some level. He constantly talks utter shit, makes all kinds of ridiculous claims, and yet, like you say, it's never like that surprising anymore. It's never not surprising. If that makes sense.
Because it just gets sillier and sillier the further it goes, and it's like, how this can't possibly be any worse, can it? They and yet they always find some way to one up themselves.
Yeah. Ben Shapiro, gone from being never Trumper to a Trump ball licker, frankly. The media's hysterical narrative about an incipient coup isn't about reality. It's about maintenance of the narrative that they were correct to abandon their journalistic credibility in pursuit of Orange Hitler, because he was a unique threat to the Republic and remained so. But it turns out that Orange Hitler wasn't in fact a threat to the Republic. There is a legal process it will take place. If the electors vote for Joe Biden, a peaceful transition of power will take place. So it's okay for him to try a coup as long as it's not successful.
Apparently, yeah. That's the most important thing.
That's remarkable. Embarrassing. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, you know, Ben refers to the media being hysterical there. I mean, I don't think I have read or heard anyone in the mainstream media actually characterize what Trump is doing as a coup, in the sense that it has a chance of succeeding. Yeah. Like they use the word coup to describe the type of behavior that he's doing, or the kinds of things that he is trying. His rhetoric suggests that he wants to overturn the result of a lawful election. So that would be kind of a coup. If you lose an election and then you stay in power, that's a coup. That's what that is. But nobody is saying that he has a plausible chance of pulling it off. Yeah. People are talking about what he is attempting to do, and then they're also following that right up with, but he has absolutely no evidence that any of these things are true. You know, there is virtually no realistic chance that he is going to hold on to the presidency after this. So they're not being hysterical at all. I mean, the hysteria is from people like Ben Shapiro, who are talking about the media reporting this as though they are blowing this all out of proportion, when really they're not from what I've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, it's refreshing, although it should just be normal, I suppose, to just see the president-elect just getting on with his shit. Like, the legal team, let them deal with the court cases and all the rest of it. They know they're on pretty safe ground there, especially because lawyers, actually competent lawyers, want to take on that case because it's easy as fuck and is good for their resume. So of course they do.
Right.
Yeah, I defeated the president in court a dozen times in one day. Yeah, it looks brilliant. Anyway, but he's just getting on with his job. He's putting together a team. He's trying to say good things, like maybe wearing a mask would stop with airborne viruses. Brilliant. Yeah, that would be really good. Maybe do that. Just normal, like not even referring to Trump, not pretending like this coup's actually got any chance of winning. Just get on with your shit, and that's quite nice.
But Kevin, no, he created the office of the president-elect just to troll Trump. Even though Trump did the same thing, and so did Obama.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a thing. You know, I mean, it isn't official in the sense that it only really means anything because people accept it as a thing. It's not like an official government position, but everyone accepts he's the president-elect, and everyone accepted that Trump was, and Obama was, and so on.
Yeah,
it's fine.
But that goes back to another thing that, again, it's just the double standards, where they're complaining about stuff and objecting to stuff that nobody in any political party has ever had a problem with before. Like there are these right-wingers who are upset that Trump lost the election, and they're complaining about stuff like, you know, like the fact that anybody is referring to Biden as the president-elect before the votes have officially been certified. There's nothing remotely unusual about that. Yeah. I mean, in most years, during typical elections that don't take place during a pandemic, where most of the votes are cast by mail, and the networks actually probably can project a winner on election night, the winner is called the president-elect as soon as they're projected to win.
Yeah.
You know, because because it's a description. It's not an official title. It's just a way of referring to the person who won the election. They are the president-elect. And it's never been, well, you can't call them the president-elect until the votes are certified. That's not the standard. It never has been. There's no reason to expect that or demand that. And yet, all of a sudden, because their guy lost, they're like, this is ridiculous calling him the president-elect when the votes haven't even been certified yet. Okay, yeah. But I mean, you're just making that up. Like,
yeah,
nobody's
exactly.
ever complained about that before.
Imagine if Hillary Clinton had refused. Like, she came out and conceded the next day because, it was still tight, and also she probably wanted to go to fucking sleep, really. It was quite late and she's like an old woman. Okay. But imagine if she'd refused to come out and call him president-elect. Imagine if all of the top Democrats had refused to say Trump was president-elect at that point, even though the votes hadn't been certified. It's 20 days after the election they get certified. Imagine if they hadn't done that. I think Trump would still be raging about that now if that had happened.
Oh yeah. Well, he's still. I mean, he still complains about how horribly he's been treated by the media today. I mean, he complains about stuff that happened 4 or 5 years ago. He complains about the fact that he complains about polls predicting he would lose in 2016. Like, he won. Yeah. And he still complains about the fact that before the last election, there were polls that projected that he would lose. And it's like, how can you be this thin-skinned and this petty and this egotistical that even after you won the election, you're still complaining that some people thought that you were going to lose?
Yeah, exactly. It's remarkable. Yeah. He will die. He will die not accepting the result of this election.
Yeah. I mean, this is the guy that has somehow, in the minds of so many conservative people in this country, somehow this guy, this gigantic crybaby with no chill, who cannot keep his shit together in public for 5 minutes at a stretch, has somehow come to embody masculinity and nobility and it's everything that they claim to hold dear. It's like, are you seriously? This guy? This giant baby who complains about every perceived slight, real or imagined? Like, this is your guy? This is the guy who's going to defeat all of us precious snowflakes and teach us a lesson about, how to act like an adult? Like, this is the guy? Seriously? Yeah. Come on.
But anyway, talking of crazy old men, Randy Quaid.
Please.
It's Randy Quaid time.
Oh my God.
It's, for me, for people of my generation, I remember him as crazy conspiracy guy who, for me, has the greatest scene in probably cinematic history, I would say, when he, as the conspiracy fighter pilot guy from Independence Day, flies into the alien spacecraft. Yeah, saying, was it, "Hello, boys, I'm back." I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. It's like Gilgood didn't die. It's perfect acting, really. Anyway, but Randy Quaid,
one of the truly great moments in cinema. I agree completely.
Absolutely, and in a movie with some real high points, I think it's safe to say.
For sure.
Yeah. Anyway, he's now turned into a crazy conspiracy nut. Now, this video is from 2019, but the first sentence of it sums up so much of what we're going to see.
Is this the way America goes? From George Washington to George Soros?
There you go. Beautiful. It's fucking beautiful. Why is he... Oh, anyway. So naturally...
Good point, Randy.
Exactly. He retweeted the Trump Dominion thing, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Everything he says is just so fucking crazy. He's turned into like an extra from the fucking Duck Dynasty or something. He says, we'll never have a clearer path or better chance to shut down and now fully expose pure evil of the fake news and criminals, in brackets, Obama. Okay. Destroying our right to an honest election. I'm not saying it will happen, but if we must go to war in our own country to protect our democracy and freedom, blah, 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 just LARPy bullshit. You're not going to do a civil war, guys. You're embarrassing yourselves. Anyway, that was
no. Yeah. And honestly, Randy Quaid ain't fighting in no civil war.
No.
Like, who we kidding here? Randy Quaid ain't fighting in no civil war. If the war comes, it's like, Randy ain't going to be grabbing a gun and going out there and trying to kill people. It's just not going to happen.
No. But he does want to imprison a newspaper, which is fun. Someone, please
put the New York Times in prison.
Yeah, not the people who work there, just the paper itself somehow. Which
oh my god!
Is just I just imagine now literally just a paper on a prison bed. Like I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Anyway,
just a copy of the paper.
Yeah. Do they have to update the paper every day?
Ridiculous.
They just put a new fresh newspaper down every day? I don't know.
There, Randy, you got what you wanted, man.
Yeah.
Hope you feel better.
Yeah, no, shut the fuck up. Anyway, this is quite funny.
No, shut the fuck up, please.
People who fight for our freedom, I mean literally put their lives on the line, need to know, deserve that our elections are honest, democratic and fucking transparent. Which is literally true. If taken out of the context it means there, that's just a literally true sentence. But also, hashtag Trump Pence. Two men who have never served in the US military. Okay. I don't know they're necessarily people to pray in aid of in that sentiment, Randy, to be honest with you. Call me crazy. But,
yeah. Well, and also, if Trump had gotten his wish and they had stopped counting votes in the states that he was demanding they stop the count because he was losing, many military ballots would not have been counted because they had not been added to the total yet when he started crying about how you have to stop the count.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I don't know that he's necessarily correct here. Trump is never wrong. Never.
I don't know.
It seems to me like, you know when people say, oh, you're overblowing it a little bit by calling them a cult. They're saying their leader is never wrong. That sounds very much the same way people talk about like Jesus or fucking the Buddha or some shit. Like, what? How else are you supposed to take that, you know? He's fucking crazy.
Well, I mean, and not, how many people and you know there was a tweet that I've seen a couple people share around. I think it was on one of your it was in one of the threads that you were displaying a little while ago. The guy who had like the Trump tattoo on his hand, and he was talking about how, you know, there was like a series of tweets from him over a period of time, and the first couple are like, "Oh, COVID is a hoax. There's no such thing," and then the progress is, you know, that guy. He's got COVID. And then like his last tweet is, "Oh, I'm in the hospital. They're going to put me on a ventilator." And he's still tweeting support for Trump.
Yeah, look, he says,
like,
I have a plan.
What do you call that?
Not just that. I have a plan. Inject me with coronavirus. If I die, then all your paranoid bullshit is legit. If I don't die, blah, 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 America has won. And he's literally got...
That seems like a valid scientific experiment.
That tattoo, that's a thing that person had put on their skin permanently. Forever.
Yes.
Amazing.
Forever.
Look at the... Jesus Christ. And then, to all my friends in fact, then this is really sad, because this is a human being who is so deluded that they've essentially committed suicide via COVID. Okay? To my friends and family and acquaintances, I love you all passionately, my son, blah, blah, blah. Currently in Providence Hospital ICU fighting COVID symptoms. I do hope for all your... you all know your truth too. Love everyone. President Trump, fight the hood fight. I think he means good fight, but that could be a racist dog whistle, I don't know. Break down the left's fraud, make America great again. Oh my God. You've been killed by Trump's fucking death cult and you're still praising the dude. That's embarrassing.
I know. Can you imagine, like, quite possibly your final public words after, you know, about to die of a virus that you don't believe in, because of people like Donald Trump, and your final public words are "Go Trump." It's
there's also
it's sad.
Yeah. There's also an Iron Cross though, so he's a Nazi prick. Fuck him, but still.
Yeah, so to hell with him. But I mean,
that's still Jesus Christ. That's so embarrassing. Anyway, we were talking about Randy. Let's not get off the Randy topic. There was another couple. There were a couple of other bits. This was the one I put out there. I said he died of a copium overdose. This is from November the 9th, so only 3 days ago. We've known that Biden was winning for the last week, basically, but anyway. The count continues and Trump is winning! That's pretty pathetic, man. How do you become this person? Do you have any insight into how these people turn this way?
I mean, apparently it's something with the Quaid family because, I mean, Dennis isn't this outrageously nuts, but Dennis is a bit of a Trump guy too. So, I mean, I don't know. It's weird. It's like Hollywood is, generally speaking, this very sort of liberal place. Most prominent Hollywood celebrities are fairly liberal, or at least a little bit left of center, and some are quite left leaning. But there are like these little pockets of conservatism in Hollywood, and the right wing Hollywood celebrities tend to be like completely over the edge, completely off the rails. Not just like a little bit conservative, like, well, I probably would have voted for Reagan. No. They're like completely nuts.
Yeah,
and I don't know what the explanation is.
Well, my two favourites, I think, are, well, up until Randy. Randy's getting his own cringe compilation at some point. I can assure everyone of that. Because I'm doing loads of them. I've got about a dozen planned. Anyway. My two favourites before this were John Voight, who is a fucking lunatic, and James Woods.
Oh my God,
who is not as crazy, but it's a marginal call, frankly. Anyway, it's like you know, to go back to the cult metaphor. I mean, it's like they've completely drunk the Kool-Aid. They've completely just turned over whatever reason they may have once had to this mentality of, you know, like somehow they're the persecuted ones and they're the ones that, you know, are being mistreated and being censored, and, you know, Trump is this incredibly popular president, and the media is lying about it. It's sad. It's sad, but it's also like super infuriating because they have platforms where they speak to millions of people. Yeah. Although hopefully, I mean, if anything good comes out of this, if Trump could take down Fox News by just, you know, fucking destroying their nonsense over the calling Arizona thing, that would be cool. And if Twitter get rid of Trump, I think would also be a step forward for humanity. As silly as that sounds.
Oh God, I really, really hope that he either tries to start his own network or take some kind of a position at a rival network to Fox News. And it's like Ken Watanabe in the first the first sort of recent like Godzilla movie where he goes, let them fight. Like, please let them fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Let Fox News and whatever network Trump lands on kill each other. That would be fantastic. Let them destroy each other. Yeah, I would love that. Everybody stay out of it. Just let them fight.
Yeah, when your enemies are firing at one another, just sit back and watch.
Exactly.
Popcorn ready at hand. Yeah. This America is not and will never be coming together for. And this is a new nickname, Joe the Cartel Tool. I don't think that's quite the sick burn you were hoping for, Randy. I'll be honest. I don't think that quite lands. But anyway.
I mean, I also like the Biden crime family. I love when they're referred to as the Biden crime family. Okay.
Oh, that guy in Arizona. The Biden crime family stealing the election. Amazing.
And then the dude, he like wears himself out, and the dude is like, okay, what were we saying?
Yeah, he literally because he's just like a county clerk official, and he's like, anyway, what did you ask me again? Like, just completely blanks it, like he wasn't there. Which is the way you deal with
that guy. Get it out of his system. Just let him shout himself hoarse, and he'll get tired and go away, and we can get back to what we're actually supposed to be doing.
Indeed. Now, this I think is my favourite account in the history of the world on Twitter. Not Randy Quaid, fuck Randy Quaid, but the Coping MAGA account is absolutely amazing.
Oh my God!
Which is not just brilliant, but the Trump idiots show themselves to be the hypocritical gobshites that they are, screaming about free speech and how everyone needs to have their say. They flagged it down for a couple of days, but they got it back, so that's good. Yes, and some of these are just amazing. They literally just collate loads and loads of stuff from various people. And there's one, where's the clip of Nick Fuentes, the Nazi bastard? Come on. Give it to me. Here we go. This clip is amazing. You've got to listen all the way to the end. It's only 15 seconds, but it's beautiful.
And right now, the benefit is The president of the United States just won 70 million votes in a presidential election. That's the biggest vote total out of any candidate in history, except for Joe Biden.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, Nick.
Except for that little detail.
Yeah, except for the dude he was literally running against. Apart from that, though, he's
Except
got the
for
most.
the guy who beat him. the guy who beat him by 5 million votes.
Yeah, apart from that little detail, I don't know what's going on with that. Actually, did I get the link for that? Oh bollocks! I forgot to get the link for that. But anyway, yeah, there's this story. They released a 200 and something page document of affidavits from people involved in the account in Detroit, and it's literally just loud noises, mean stares, and there's a big man that was intimidating me. That's it.
There's a big man here.
Yeah, literally intimidated by people staring. Now, if you are staring, that's a bit rude. But if that's literally your entire gripe, I don't know that you're really gonna. Yeah. That's not. I don't think a judge is going to throw out a fucking election on the basis of someone staring at you.
I know.
Call me crazy.
Oh, they were a little mean to them at the polls, so we'll just let him win.
Yeah. Do you want to read this one out for us, Steve? Because this definitely happened. This is actually definitely 100% true.
I have no doubt that it did. Okay, so this is from Walter Milner Jr., who says, I had a waitress last night who was excited about Biden winning. She said Trump and his supporters are hateful and don't care about anyone. She didn't know I was a Trump supporter. At the end, I left her a $700 tip and she burst into tears, then pulled my MAGA hat out of my wife's purse and put it on. She stood with her mouth wide open in disbelief. We hugged and she apologized. I really believe at that moment she realized she's been lied to by the media for the last 5.5 years. Hashtag MAGA is love. Wow.
That is what this person is a genius. A fucking genius.
It definitely really happened.
That is 100% true story. Definitely. Also,
that's brilliant.
A $700 tip. What the fuck are you doing? What $700? I mean, that's if you've got the money and you can be generous, that's fine. But $700.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know what. I
it
don't know.
Seem a little. It's like is that just how much cash that he had on him? Yeah. He just happened to be carrying $700, or did he write that in the tip line for a credit card? He's like, how much should I tip her? $700. Fuck it. Like, well, it just seems a little not weird. 500, not 1,000, 700. That seems fair.
Yeah, indeed. Emails. Oh, hang on. Where's the emails Chong one? I can't remember. Oh, this is a guy from Mississippi here, who's I think he's a state representative or something. Anyway, asking for Mississippi to secede from the rest of the United States. What the fuck can Mississippi do on its own?
Absolutely nothing.
Imagine an independent Mississippi and what a third world shithole it would be in 5 minutes. No offense, Mississippi. You've got Dusty, and that's about it. Let's be honest. But I don't know your economy is worth a bucket of warm piss, frankly, on its own. You're embarrassing yourselves. Yeah. So, I mean, again, I don't want to shit on any of these states, but it's like California's propping you up. Don't pretend otherwise. It's nonsense.
Oh yeah.
And to a degree, like you've got oil in Texas, but it's still California and New York where your money's coming.
Yeah, and I love that he said it should succeed.
Oh, did he actually say succeed?
He said succeed. Yeah.
Oh, genius!
Mississippi should.
I didn't even
notice from the union. Yeah.
Genius. Fucking hell. Yeah. That's amazing. Well, your education system's already good enough. Clearly, you can do it. Oh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where are we? Oh, did you see? Yeah, do you see this guy? The Dan Browning thing. He was pretending to be a black gay guy.
Oh my God! Yes, this is the greatest story.
Yeah,
this is the greatest story.
Yeah, he claimed to be a black gay guy.
Oh my God!
Then he claimed that he was quoting someone, but then people actually did some research and found, I don't know if it's on this account or not. Oh, I can't find the bastard. Anyway, but basically they found out he had a separate account, and it was called something really racist as well. I can't remember what it. No, he had another false account called Pat Riarchy, who was like a MAGA.
Yeah. Yes.
Right, and then he had another one who he was pretending to be a black guy on, with like a stock image of a black guy.
Yes.
Who we clearly thought he'd gone onto that account to tweet that out. So he was clearly pretending to be a black guy
Right.
and like a sexist guy when he's actually just a sexist, racist dude. It's amazing. Anyway, so that's fun. Oh no, we already read that one. There was another couple of ones that I wanted to take a little look at because some of the saltiness is just delicious. Where are we? Oh yeah. This one, fantastic, right? You know, Trump and Netanyahu have been getting on like a house on fire for 4 years. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, tweeted congratulations to Joe Biden because he'll have to be dealing with him for the next 4 years, assuming they're both in power for 4 years. And Donald Trump unfollowed him on Twitter.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm surprised he didn't unfollow him after he blew him off in that phone call a couple weeks ago when he tried to get him to bash Biden and he didn't take the bait.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, but I mean, it's just what level? Imagine the level of pettiness to give a fuck about that. Jesus Christ, it is. It's like
I'm sure it really ruined Netanyahu's day too.
Yeah. Oh God, this one's phenomenal. Yeah, but it's like you're dealing with like a 14-year-old fucking school kid who's like, oh, well, you're friends with that person now. Well, I can't be friends with you anymore. Like, it's... Oh, God. Anyway. This one, Ariel Escarcella, noted transphobe, also a kind of weird Holocaust denier or something. I don't know. Jews were branded with tattoos, or with tattoo numbers. Gays were branded with pink triangles. Trump's list supporters are being branded with lists. The Biden-Harris administration's message is convert or die. I missed that.
Seems legit.
I missed that statement from the office of the president-elect.
I mean, I'm not even sure what kind of lists she's talking about. I mean,
no.
I know I've seen a lot of Trump supporters because now that they have lost or that they're sort of forced to accept that they have lost. Now all of a sudden they're like, okay, let's all come together now and be friends. And don't forget that you have people in your family and circle of friends who voted for Trump. So don't be mean to them or whatever. And it's like so when you need some time. And when you're having a rough go of it, we need to be sensitive to you. Yeah. But when people were upset, that Trump won in 2016, they were a bunch of crybabies and they need to suck it up, right?
That's precisely.
And they're saying that they can't, people, they don't want to be friends with us just because we voted for Donald Trump. Like, well, I mean, if you voted for him this time, especially, like if you voted for him after 4 years of him being president. Yeah, I kind of feel like that's a deal breaker.
Yeah, when he's been ripping...
I don't think that's that unreasonable.
Ripping kids away from parents and shit. And literally making America a fucking laughing stock on the world stage. I would say at that point, that you've overstepped a certain mark. And unfortunately, 70 million plus Americans did overstep that mark. And that is worrying.
It's horrifying. I mean, and it's like, why are we not allowed to hold that against you exactly? Yeah. I mean, well, I don't think there was an excuse for voting for him last time. There's definitely not an excuse for voting for him this time after seeing, because, a lot of the people in 2016 were like, oh, give him a chance. Maybe it won't be so bad. Okay, here we are 4 years later. We gave him a chance. It was worse than we thought it would be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What's your excuse?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But also and again, it's the hypocrisy we talked about earlier of they still go on about Hillary Clinton calling them deplorables, which I mean she wasn't referring to all Trump supporters as well for a start, but you've spent 4 years, guys, calling everyone a beta, cuck, piece of shit, globalist, spirit-cooking child, pederast fucker, and you want us to be nice to you now. Like, what the fuck? What planet do you live on where you don't have consequences for anything you do or say?
Yeah, well, they're even saying that about Trump. They're saying, look, maybe he just needs some time. Just give him some time to come to terms with it, and he'll concede, or he'll admit that he lost on his own time, and he just needs a little bit of space. It's like he's a 75-year-old man. He's not like a 10-year-old who didn't make the Little League team, and just give him some space and he'll be okay. Like, he's a 75-year-old man who lost a presidential election. I'm sure that stings, but like every other candidate who has ever lost has conceded, like, as soon as the race was called. They sucked it. Fucking Al Gore, who lost the election because the Supreme Court ruled against him and lost it by a couple hundred votes in Florida, conceded to George W. Bush in public. He got in front of microphones and cameras, and like a grown-up, like an adult, he said, I don't agree with this result, but I accept it, and I wish President Bush all the best, and I hope, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. There was, if anybody had a case to be a whiny baby about the election result, it was Al Gore, and he totally did not do that. Yeah. But somehow we have to give Trump some space.
Well, Hillary Clinton, who Donald Trump had threatened on live TV during a presidential debate to imprison upon his election, which, by the way, how'd that work out for you, you fucking idiots, had signal-boosted people saying she was running a pedophile ring in a fucking non-existent DC pizzeria basement. All of that, right?
Yeah.
Spirit cooking, fucking crazy Alex Jones bullshit that he'd signal boosted, fucking violent attacks on her supporters and stuff that he'd been absolutely fine with, and all of that. Even she went, you know what? For the good of the country, I'll concede, because that's the way it goes. That's the nature of the beast, you know. But Donald Trump is, we need to give him some time. No, we need to laugh at him and make sure every remaining day of that man's life he's reminded he's a fucking loser. And I intend to make sure that his fans know that forever. Just saying.
Please.
Anyway, this one again is an amalgam of bullshit. If you want to read this one for him.
Okay. All the evidence of fraud must be on Hunter Biden's laptop, which is why the media won't report on it.
Yeah, that's definitely why.
Hunter Biden's laptop that has apparently been a thing for since April, I think, is when Giuliani says he got his hands on it, and the guy that it supposedly came from had it last year. So we're supposed to believe, in addition to all the other bullshit about that laptop, we're supposed to believe that they had plans for election fraud on Hunter Biden's laptop like a year ago.
Yeah. Which is especially delightful, because Caitlin Bennett's such a fucking moron that even the conservative grifters who were trying to push this before the election as an election ploy, which again, by the way, how did that October surprise work out for you, you dickheads? It flopped completely. They've given up talking about it now. Doesn't exist. Yeah. Would you be surprised to learn Hunter Biden had never owned a laptop? Frankly, that's how false that story was. But she's still like, the Hunter Biden. Let's carry on with that lie that no one believed anyway. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Like, obviously made up bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean,
just embarrassing nonsense. What's this? Trump will win Nevada eventually at this pace. What? 9,000 were cast by people who do not live in the state. Is that true? What? Oh, from the election wizard. Oh, okay. That's sorry.
The election wizard.
Yeah, well, it's definitely believable then.
For sure.
Ministry of Oh God, these people are fucking insane. Sorry. There's so much of this. The bits I've remembered are. Damn it, Q, where are you? Now we need you more than ever.
Oh my God, yes.
Sake.
The QAnon people are,
We have been abandoned. Guess he was fake all along. Again, some of them are beginning to wake up. That's good.
You think?
What? I mean,
you don't mean I mean, like, come on.
How did they not work that out when, every fucking prediction they've made has been false, but especially the dead JFK Jr. is going to rise from the fucking grave and run as his vice president thing? That didn't happen, and everyone was like, well, that's part of the plan then, clearly. What the fuck?
That went by and nobody said anything about it. Like that, it's like, okay, so that's cool then?
Yeah. This one's nice. This is the we're definitely not owned. We're not owned. Honest. It's just,
Yes.
This is from the Donald.win, which, by the way, is the greatest salt mine in the history of mankind. We aren't butthurt. We won. Okay. Whatever gets you to sleep at night, I suppose. Well done.
That's definitely not what a butthurt person would say.
No, definitely not. Absolutely.
Definitely not.
This is quite a nice little Venn diagram for you.
I love this. I've seen this.
Impeached or resigned. 1 term, lost popular vote. The absolute sweet spot is the only man in history to do all 3.
Oh my God!
You are a loser on a historic level, Donald. Well done.
On historic, he finally made history. He tried to get us all to believe that his electoral college victory last time was this historic landslide when it wasn't. But now, with that, he finally gets his unique place in presidential history.
No one believed you could be that incompetent. I've taken incompetence to a new level. Seriously, it's amazing. Bigly. Anyway, this is the greatest religious metaphor I've ever seen. Satan thought he won on Friday. Jesus walked out of his tomb on Sunday. Monday, it's on. Replied to Charlie Kirk as well. Brilliant. Well done. This is they're just lunatic.
Yeah, of course.
Absolute lunatic. Oh, this person tweeting out, there were 5 million voters in Georgia, but only 3.7 million people. Forgetting, of course, that they're referring to Georgia, the country in the southern Caucasus region of Europe. Not the state in the south of the United States. Where I think
you get those confused sometimes.
Like 9 million is the population of the state or something. So, yeah, you people are idiots. I'm saying you're fucking idiots. I don't know how else to tell you that. This one's quite nice as well. If you want to read this one for us, Steve.
Okay, this is from Errol Weber. Biden and Harris want to rule one half of the country and imprison the other half. What does that sound like to you?
Fucking lunacy, Errol.
The Trump administration? I mean, okay. In fairness, the Democrats have contributed to the mass incarceration problem. So but somehow I don't think that's what he's getting at in this tweet.
No. Although maybe America can surpass itself and actually literally get to 50% imprisonment rate.
Yeah, come on, we can do it, America.
Yeah,
we already have the highest rate of incarceration in the world. Let's try to get it all the way up to 50%.
That's what blew my mind forever. That you've got literally in your fucking national anthem, "Land of the Free," and you've got more people imprisoned than have ever been imprisoned anywhere ever.
Yeah, yep.
Phenomenal.
Oh, say can you see?
Indeed. Oh, Jesus. Nick Fuentes again, Nazi shitbag. I wonder why Nazis support Trump. It's very surprising to me.
It's funny, isn't it?
It is. If the people let Biden steal this election, that will be the end of Trump's rebellion against the system's control. They falsely promised to relent and let us continue our lives normally if we surrender to their control, but they are lying. They will persecute us with a vengeance. They want to destroy us, and Trump is standing in the way. They promise peace now, but once Trump is out of the picture, they will destroy his base that mounted this challenge to their power in the first place. It will be easier to surrender now, but we will face destruction!
I mean, I don't know what's more preposterous about that. The whole framework that he's proposing there about how the Trump administration and their supporters are some kind of like rebel insurgency, or the assumption that Trump cares about his supporters. Because he says there in that second one, like, oh, Trump is standing in the way, like Trump is protecting us. How can you possibly think that Trump gives a shit about any of you? How many of you have caught COVID or died from it because you went to one of his rallies? Because like every public health official in the country is saying, don't gather in large groups. And Trump continued to invite people by the thousands to his political rallies. And you all went, and a bunch of you caught COVID, and a bunch of you even died from it. But yeah, Trump is definitely looking out for you. Trump really cares about you.
Well, not just that, but people who turned up to the event, even if they didn't catch COVID, I think it was 3 or possibly 4 times, he literally abandoned them in the middle of nowhere after rallies without any transportation, including there were some people.
No transportation.
Yeah, because they're often at like air bases or like just somewhere where he can fly in, do the thing, and fly the fuck off again. Because it's it's a thing, but you've got to provide like transportation to get back to the city, which is like fucking 20 miles away. And so people were just abandoned in the middle of nowhere, leading to multiple hypothermia. Hospitalizations of his own supporters who he just abandoned in the middle of fucking nowhere in November or late October. Like, Jesus Christ.
Well, and even during some of those rallies, like especially when it started getting down to close to election day, he would demonstrate like open contempt for the people and the location. He would say things like, "I shouldn't have to be here." Like there was, I've thought about it for you. Back in 2000, there was this article in The Onion that I still go back and read every once in a while because it's so goddamn funny. And it was during the 2000 presidential campaign, and it was an article in The Onion about how Al Gore had visited some small town in Pennsylvania, and in the article, Al Gore just demonstrates just utter open contempt for the town and for its people, and is like constantly just like muttering insults about them and complaining about why does he have to be here. And it's hilarious, and it's even funnier now because Trump was doing that exact kind of thing on stage, like in front of thousands of people. He was saying like, "I shouldn't have to be here. What am I doing here?" It's like, oh my God, you can't. It's self-parody.
It is. It absolutely is. Yeah. I in many ways, some of the greatest people who have suffered under Trump have been the satirists. They've got no chance. They're literally he's putting them out of work, frankly, because it's nothing can keep up with, especially 2020 as well. It's like a fucking double whammy of just impossible to actually be too ridiculous about. But anyway, it's not just his supporters or the places as well. Was it Martha McSally in Arizona who eventually ended up losing, didn't she? Who he went and did a rally like a couple of days before the election, and he'd given time to talk to Katie Hopkins, a British fascist piece of garbage, and Nigel Farage, ditto.
Yeah.
They both had like 3 or 4 minutes each to speak, and then he invited Martha McSally, who was in a fucking razor-thin battle for the Senate seat for re-election, which she eventually lost, and he said, "Come up here, Martha. No one wants to hear from you. You've got 1 minute."
Yeah.
I would have, if any self-respecting person would have gone, "No, I'm not fucking coming up, you cheeky bastard. I'd rather lose than fucking debase myself like this." And she did, and went up there, and you said, "Oh, you slimy bastards, all of you. I hope you all lose. I hope you all suffer enormous amounts of personal fucking anguish over this, dickheads." Anyway, that's the thing. Yeah. And she's been like one of the Trump loyalists as well, and he doesn't give a fuck.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't care at all. I mean, if he was mad at Jeff Sessions for recusing himself from the Russia investigation, which is actually what he should have done. Yeah. Like it was one of the few ethical things that Jeff Sessions did while he was Attorney General, and Trump basically fired him for it because he could not believe that the Attorney General would not be just showing blatant favoritism to him. Where's the loyalty? I mean, that's just the kind of guy he is. And Jeff Sessions was as loyal a Trump guy as you could get.
Yes,
but
indeed.
You cross him once, you one time, you don't do what he thinks you should do, and you might as well. You're nobody to him.
Yeah. Well, you can tell every time anyone leaves his presidency, and by God, has there been a conveyor belt of dickheads running through from the White House? They're all backstabbing one another and calling each other the most absurd names. Scaramucci's my favourite. Steve Scaramucci. People may or may not remember the Mooch. Yeah. He was for about 20 days. He was the press secretary back in 2017.
Yeah. I it was a preposterously short period of time.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
And but he's my favourite because it's like the den of thieves. There's no honour among any of them. That he's now like the ultimate anti-Trump guy. Like he literally talks as if Trump is like the fucking devil incarnate. And you think, whoa! Like even most Biden voters were like, "Come on, dude, like chill the fuck out now." Because again, once you backstab each other, they just sort of preposterously fucking evil to one another. You just think, I don't trust any of you at all. You're all awful human beings. Fucking hell. Anyway.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But anyway, talking of awful human beings, we're going to take a look at a video from a guy who is one of the former sort of skeptics. And I thought, as you are one of the skeptics who didn't turn into a fascist piece of shit, I thought it would be appropriate for us to watch a skeptic who did turn into a fascist piece of shit. Do you fancy that, Steve?
Oh boy,
fun times.
I would love to join you in this. Absolutely, let's watch.
Yes. Are you aware of the
in 2016
absurd human being who goes by the name Computing Forever?
I am aware of that. He actually, a couple years ago, he invited me to an event, which I was incredibly pleased to respond to by basically telling him to go fuck himself. Yes.
Good stuff.
This was all in private. This was all in email. But yes, he invited me. He invited me to. I can't remember what it was. One of their attempts at having like a convention or something. And I was like, and actually, I don't think it was actually him. It was one of his. It was someone on his behalf who emailed me and was like, "Do you want to come?" and blah blah blah. And I was like, "Yeah, no."
Was this the Kilroy event?
It might have been the Kilroy event. Yeah.
Oh my god.
And I think my response was something like, I'm already embarrassed to share a planet with him, let alone like a stage. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
Absolutely, yeah. Like it, yeah. I might work that one into my usual routine because I say, look, they're technically human. I do have to admit that I am the same species, but it doesn't feel good. But yeah,
it doesn't feel good. No.
Anyway, so Dave, his real name's Dave Cullen. That's not me doxing him. He's got a channel called the Dave Cullen Show or some bollocks. Anyway, and he's an Irishman. But unlike most Irishmen, he's not actually remotely sentient. I don't think. I don't know. There's something very off with the guy. Anyway, and he's a massive Trump supporter, and the levels of cope he gets into, and then the weird diversion for the second half of the video. It's amazing. Whenever you want to pause, Steve, just say pause and I shall.
Okay.
In 2016, the mainstream media told us relentlessly that the Trump administration colluded with Russia in order to win the election.
Trump, Putin, Russian collusion.
Trump, Russian sort of collusion.
Trump, Russian, possible collusion. Trump, Russian, metal collusion. Trump, Russia, possible collusion.
Trump, Russian, potentially collusion.
Trump, Russia, possible collusion.
Trump, Russian, possible collusion.
Trump, Russian, collusion. Trump, Russian collusion. Trump, Russia, possible collusion. Russia hacked our election. Here comes a big change. Because all of a sudden, Trump, Russian, possible collusion, Russian collusion.
Trump, Russian, possible collusion.
That narrative.
Yeah, we get it. Look, we get the point you're trying to make there, Dave. You don't need to. That didn't need to go on that long at all.
That felt like a lot longer than 30 seconds. I got to be honest.
Yeah, it did. It did. It really fucking did. Anyway, but let's hear what the Irishman with an American flag behind him. Like,
interesting.
Doing flag humping, and I know technically I've got a foreign flag as well, but I'm not like fucking it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was of course later completely debunked, but now the same mainstream media is telling us that
also completely debunked. Haven't like about a dozen Trump people been charged and convicted of multiple offences based on that investigation?
Yeah. Quite a few, in fact.
That doesn't sound like debunking to me. But I'm not a skeptic, so I wouldn't know these things, you know? I'm not one of his was it Skeptics 2.0 thing he did? That weird new generation of skeptics thing, and he included people like fucking Black Pigeon Speaks or something, like the Nazi pigeon. Anyway, very strange.
Absolutely nothing sinister or questionable took place during this 2020 election, and that Joe Biden won it fair and square, despite a mountain of, shall we say, peculiarities and irregularities during the vote counting process.
A mountain of evidence? Steve. They should probably go to court
so
with that.
If he knows it, that's exactly what I was going to say, Kev. That's exactly what I was going to say. If there is like all of this evidence, somebody should tell Trump's lawyers because they really need it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like a mountain of evidence sounds like the exact sort of thing the judge would like to look at. I think so. I think they'd definitely be interested in that rather than weird hearsay and retracted statements and shit. Yeah, just saying, Dave. And I hear they're offering rewards now because that's a thing that a team aren't desperate to. Yeah.
Maybe we should just take their word for it. You always know there's some kind of coup taking place when the sitting president is being censored, not only on social media, but the mainstream television media are literally cutting him off mid-sentence, bringing the sound down during his speeches and speaking over him to correct what he's saying.
Now tens of millions of unsolicited ballots without any verification measures whatsoever.
Well, we're interrupting this because what the President of the United States is saying, in large part, is absolutely untrue.
And that's Shepard Smith.
Yeah.
That's not a proper journalist either, and even they are saying it. Yeah.
So what is the problem with the media correcting the president when he is lying on television? Like all he did in his introduction to that clip was just describe something that is not only not a problem, but it's something that journalists ought to have been doing all along anyway. Like, why is it so offensive to him? Why should it be offensive to us to say, like, they're turning down the sound and cutting off the president to correct what he's saying? He even uses that phrase, to correct what he is saying. Why is that bad?
Yeah,
why
exactly.
is that bad at all?
Yeah. And again, it's not like the left that are doing it. Like, Fox News did it. When I said this the other day, when your levels of honesty are not sufficient for Neil Cavuto, you have gone off the end of the fucking pier at that point.
Exactly.
You're too far gone.
Exactly.
You've jumped all of the sharks that have ever existed at that point.
He began, and we're not going to allow it to keep going because it's not true. He began with there were legal votes, and if they only count the legal votes, I easily win. If they count the illegal votes, they're trying to steal the election. There is not a scintilla of evidence that this is true.
This is literally cutting off the president's means of communication with the public. It's an attempt to shape what the public can think about, reforming reality.
Can think about? How does it stop people thinking about anything? If you want to think about weird fantasies of fucking voter fraud, go for it. That doesn't prevent you from doing that in the slightest. It stops lies from getting out there as easily, and that's a good thing, isn't it? I thought it was facts over feelings, mate. What happened there?
Well, I mean, like, where the president of the United States, even though I think this is generally speaking a very good, positive norm for the country, to cover the president when the president talks and to let people hear what the president has to say. Like, the president is not legally entitled to have the media amplify his message.
Yeah.
You know, like the president is not there. There's no law that says if the president is on TV, the media has to put it on TV and they have to just let him talk. And even if he is saying things that are demonstrably false, they can't correct the record. Like there's again, like talking about earlier when we were talking about how people are all of a sudden all pissy about them calling Biden the president-elect before the votes are certified. Like, nobody has ever asked for that before. They're inventing these completely new standards and then getting all upset about how I can't believe they're cutting off the president and correcting his lies on TV. How dare they? This is outrageous. You have never been upset about this ever before.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolute fucking bullshit. I mean, it's too little too late in some respects, but I suppose better late than never in some others, that the journalists are starting to act like journalists.
Yeah.
Which is good. But in Dave's crazy fucking conspiracy land, this is some nefarious plot to destroy Trump, even though he's already lost? Okay.
Apparently, yes.
And filling people's heads with propaganda. This is shameless. Let the man speak, for God's sake.
Who's
in order to
stopping him from
achieve their
speaking?
great reset, I guess Trump has to be removed from office and Biden and Harris have to be installed in order to usher in their Build Back Better Green New Deal agenda, which of course is all part of the great reset. Of course, the media's role is not to declare who the president is. That's the job of the legal system. But essentially...
Again, who has ever said that the media are literally making him the president? The people voted, the votes were counted, the media told people how the votes were counted, because that's what news is.
Exactly. The media does not determine who the president is.
Yeah, but, I mean, because I assume that these people weren't celebrating when the media called the election last time for Trump. They waited the full 20 days, the full certification, till it went to the Electoral College, and then went, okay, finally, we can finally accept Donald Trump won. I'm sure they definitely have been consistent in their use of that standard. Definitely.
Of course they were, Kevin. It's it's shocking that you would even accuse them of such hypocrisy.
Yeah. I feel bad for accusing them.
It's beneath you. You should feel bad. It's beneath you. It's beneath your dignity.
It is.
Yeah.
Actually, that's what they've done in this case. The media has declared Joe Biden president. It's insane. By the way, is Joe Biden going to condemn these large-scale Biden victory celebrations, considering he supports social distancing and lockdowns? Americans couldn't go to funerals, see loved ones before they died.
Motherfucker, he's not the president yet. What the fuck can he do?
Right.
Look, and not just that, but this is Dave Cullen, who I just want to point out for everybody. This technically won't share with you, Steve, but I can't be bothered sharing different fucking tabs all the while.
Okay.
But everyone else will see
doubt,
this on the screen. He's got, on his videos, right, he's a massive COVID truther, by which I mean he's full of shit. He got video after video called Ireland and the Loss of Private Property Rights, and Converging Agendas, and It's Just an App, Bro, discussing the growing pushback. We must not fear. The Irish people have begun to rise. The mask slips. COVID-19 analysing the data. New World Order already launched. Like, motherfucker, don't fucking pretend like you give a shit about COVID, you dickhead. Sorry. I needed to say that. That was a me moment. I just needed to get that shit out.
I understand.
Or visit family, or attend large public gatherings, or open their businesses. But apparently, this kind of thing is fine. Let's hope the Supreme Court challenges can sort out all of this mess, and maybe...
The delusion. This isn't going to the Supreme Court. This is fantasy. The Supreme Court might deal with constitutional issues and shit. Not some random twat in Detroit didn't like the way someone looked at them. That's not going to the Supreme Court ever.
I mean... Well, no, I expect that if any of these cases even make it that far, my expectation is that the Supreme Court will decline to even hear the case, because there's literally nothing to any of this.
Yeah.
Like I cannot stress enough, and unless they're like holding back, which like what are they waiting for? Yeah. I mean, they have absolutely nothing to this point, nothing at all. But yeah, the Supreme Court's going to come to the rescue, I guess.
Exactly. The Supreme Court, whenever it's possible to just kick it to the states, they'll do that. So they're not going to hear cases where you're asking them to like this. I want to speak to Conservative America for a second. States' rights isn't just a buzz phrase you can use when you want to be racist or shoot people. It actually means something in the law, okay? Like, it literally means that the states, if it's not codified in the Constitution, the states do it, including election law, for instance. The fucking Supreme Court aren't going to want to override the Pennsylvania. They're suing in Pennsylvania to stop them having electors at the college. Like, literally to invalidate all of the votes of the people of Pennsylvania. What the fuck? How could you not see that as an obvious fucking coup attempt? That's ridiculous. Anyway, sorry.
Well, and don't forget, in Georgia, the state government of Georgia, especially like the executive branch, is controlled by Republicans. The governor of Georgia is a Republican. The Georgia Secretary of State is a Republican. And they have said quite clearly in the last few days that they see absolutely no evidence of voter fraud.
Yeah.
So if it does somehow make it to the Supreme Court, at least in the case of Georgia, that's not going to go in Trump's favor when even Republicans who are in charge of that state's election are saying, no, there is absolutely nothing to this.
Yeah. The same situation in Arizona with Sharpiegate. Did you hear about Sharpiegate?
Oh, yes. Yes. Where it turns out it's actually the exact opposite. Like Sharpies are actually good to fill ballots out with.
Literally. The only thing is you can't read red, but they weren't handing out any red pens. They were all black and blue pens. It's absolutely fine. And the Republican Secretary of State for Arizona literally had to tweet out that it doesn't matter what pen you fill your thing in as long as it's black or blue ink, that's absolutely fine, including Sharpies. Why would a Secretary of State for a fucking state of tens of millions of people have to do that? Like, this is mad. And Trump had the first Sharpiegate lawsuit in Arizona thrown out. He reissued an almost identical word for word second case in Arizona, which will be thrown out tomorrow. Because it's going to be heard tomorrow and it's going nowhere. Because even the Secretary of State, who is a Republican and apparently quite a partisan one, although again that's conjecture, I don't really know her, but she's certainly a Republican, has come out and said it's absolute horseshit. It's fine to use Sharpies. At no point has it ever not been. And even if we accept the truth, quote unquote, of the claim from the Trump people, at no point did any of the people who were given Sharpies say were they asked whether they were voting for Biden or Trump. So what kind of fraud is it where they're randomly getting rid of votes? That's not partisan. That's just fucking weird tampering for no reason, seemingly.
Yeah, I know.
It's not absolute bullshit from top to bottom. But they've definitely got a mountain of evidence. Dave says so, and I believe him. 100%.
He's definitely a reliable source.
He's done like 5 minutes of Google research, so I mean, what more do you need, really? I say toss out all of the votes.
Absolutely.
Did you actually? The Conservatives have been doing this. If you throw out the votes from California, Trump actually won in a landslide. Yeah, that's how democracy works. Definitely. Yeah. If you just randomly choose,
and if you throw out all the games they lost, the Orioles won the World Series. I mean, like,
that's true. That's true.
Yeah. You don't get to do that.
I would say that for the Red Sox this year, but we didn't actually win any fucking games, so never mind. Bad time. Don't laugh at that. Jesus. Anyway,
the Red Sox actually finished behind the Orioles, so
we sucked major donkey cock this year.
We brought up the rear in the AL East. Our teams brought up the rear in the AL East this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, good times. But I'm glad we traded away Mookie Betts, probably the best player in the fucking league. That worked out well. Anyway, don't get me started. That's the real fucking fraud in America right now.
Win, but maybe he won't. I don't know. Yes. America, like the rest of the Western world, appears to be standing at a crossroads where one route will take them to a communist takeover and a neo-feudal system. Anyway, today we're going to take a look at a tweet from the potential next Vice President Kamala Harris, and she tweeted this on November 1st. There's a big difference between equality and equity.
So there's a big difference between equality and equity. Equality suggests, everyone should get the same amount.
Equality means that everyone is treated equally in the eyes of the law, and that in the case of this conversation, things like economic opportunities, everyone has the right to equality of opportunity.
The problem with that, not everybody's starting out from the same place.
And also, not everyone has the same talents, abilities, inclinations, aptitudes, interests, etc. Not everybody.
Yeah, Dave, but that's an innate part of an individual. What Kamala is, I believe, about to elucidate for us all is that there are systematic problems with where the starting point in life. Not that these people are less talented, but they are kept back by societal and legal problems. It's a very significant issue. Difference there. You know?
Well, I love how he's basically making absolutely no effort to engage with the point that Kamala Harris is actually trying to make in that video. Like he's offering all of these corrections to the terms that she's using. Like actually equality is this. And what she's trying to explain a concept that is that is an explanation for why Democrats support a lot of the policies that we support in terms of social justice stuff. And he's like making no effort to engage with what she's actually saying or the point that she's trying to make at all. He's just making all these pedantic little corrections like, well, actually, equality is this, you know?
Yeah. He's taken the worst bits of what was the skeptic community, added fascism, and mixed it up in a bowl. And that's what this is.
Exactly.
Everybody is as hardworking, for example. As a consequence of everyone being different, obviously they will each have different outcomes. They will achieve different things. The athlete who runs the fastest time at the Olympics, for example, and crosses the finish line first is the winner, and they receive the trophy, the medal.
But again, Dave, I mean, literally, this is the worst example he could have possibly used, because this analogy works on the basis that they literally all start at the same point. Kamala Harris is saying, and you can contend this if you wish, but you do have to actually address the point, is that they don't start at the same place. The actual analogy you would be making here is if someone starts at the 200-metre line and some people start at the 100-metre line, that's not a fair race. That's the point that's being made.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the point that he's completely ignoring.
Yeah.
As he
literally
makes whatever argument he was planning to make. Yeah.
Completely ignoring it. Yeah.
The money, the fame, and the glory. All of the competitors started from the same starting line at the beginning of the race, which is to say, they were all allowed to perform to the best of their individual ability, and the competition separated the winner from the losers. The reason the winner crossed the line first is because they were the fastest when compared to everybody else. They started from the same position that the winner did. The winner deserved their victory based on the rules of a fair and open competition, and everyone in the race agreed to those rules. However, equity, which is equality of outcome, would mean that the race would have to be very carefully engineered in order to ensure that all athletes crossed the finish line together at the same time.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Pretty sure that's not at all what she's saying in that video, but go ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
And they would all be crowned equal winners. This means, in this ridiculous scenario, applying weights to the fastest runners in order to bring their speed down to that of the slowest person in the race. It's daft, ridiculous.
Yeah, it is daft and ridiculous. You made it up. You literally made this scenario up and are saying it's now ridiculous. Yeah, I agree with you, Dave. It is stupid. Really stupid. You shouldn't have said it.
I mean, like, nobody is seriously arguing for anything analogous to this.
No.
Nobody is saying that society should be rearranged so that everybody achieves exactly the same outcome. And it's that nobody is. People are just saying, hey, maybe we should feed people who don't have food. Yeah. You know, like maybe we should raise the floor of society high enough so that people aren't starving to death or homeless or can't go to the doctor. And he's reacting to that like, oh, they want to make it so that everybody finishes the race at the same time. Like, what is your problem?
It's ridiculous. But I think
it's ridiculous.
I think you, like myself, are a fan of absolutely spurious accusations of communism. And this video,
I love those.
Video is it very much cashes that check for us. It's good to say.
And deeply unfair, or allowing some competitors to have an actual head start. And it's entirely anti-meritocratic. And the same basic logic applies to any career opportunities across the workforce. The best person for the job can only be determined by competition and the performance of the candidate in the job application or interview process.
So if we're all getting the same amount, but you started out back there and I started out over here, we could get the same amount, but you're still going to be that far back behind me.
The video appears to be focusing on this argument from the perspective that people who are, through no fault of their own, born into a higher socio-economic standing are...
So, again, but I mean, this is true, right? You can't help where you're born.
Right.
But notice how he says higher socioeconomic standards, they can't account for that. That's not their fault. And how he describes people in a lower one.
Are more privileged than some people who are born into lower socio-economic standings. But this is always the way in which Marxist propaganda is sold to people. Class.
There you go. So we should feel
Marxist.
sorry for the upper class people, but the lower class people, if you try and advocate for them, you're a Marxist. Okay, Dave? I mean, that's an interesting way of looking at it. I mean, it's a very, very strange way of looking at it. Oh, I mean, some would say incorrect. I would be one of those people.
Some might say that.
Yeah.
Some might say it's incorrect to characterize any support for social welfare programs as Marxist. Yeah. Some might say that.
And some will especially say that when it's Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, who literally their whole thing was, I beat the socialist Bernie Sanders, to try and like say,
yes.
I'm not a socialist. And yet he's literally calling her a Marxist.
Like Biden literally several times during the campaign, Biden literally would be on stage and would basically say, it's okay to vote for me. I'm not a socialist.
Yeah.
But somehow he's his vice president is pushing Marxist propaganda.
Yeah. But Dave, this is this is big brain stuff. Okay. This is like, it's like Dave Rubin. I don't think little pea brains like us would really get it. I think they're above us, you know.
No,
high level ideas.
Over our heads. Yeah.
As conflict and systemic inequalities that lead to unfair and unbalanced outcomes. But this is normal and part of nature itself. Again, this is why legal protection of equality of opportunity for everybody is so important. Show me a job description that says, if you're working class, you need not apply. Only...
Yeah, because that's how that works. Like, you know, murder's illegal, so it doesn't happen anymore. It's fine. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I can't stress this enough, that social inequality that is the result of uneven distribution of wealth and racial prejudice and inequality in the justice system and all other, like, that is not natural. You can't appeal to nature to explain that. Like, yes, a certain level of inequality is natural. There are people with different abilities or different aptitudes or whatever, but you can't just say, well, you know, some people are going to starve to death and some people are you know, going to be less privileged than others, and that's just that's just nature. There's nothing to be done about that. Like, that's just so not true.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
so not true.
Yeah, like it's natural for Usain Bolt to be able to run faster than I can, and I am assuming you can. I've not seen you sprint. You could be fucking. You could have a motor on you. I don't know, but
I don't like to show it off. Honestly,
That's fair enough. Hide your power levels. Absolutely. Yeah. But,
I don't like the attention. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you could beat him. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's why
I could if I really wanted to. But why would I? I mean, he seems like a nice guy. Why? And you know, that's like the one thing that he has. I don't want to take.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's good. That's good. So that's natural. But
I probably could.
Having millions of people starving to death, that's not natural. That's a thing that we've like imposed through like economics and stuff like that. You know. Grim. But yeah, let's hear more from Dave's. Now, this video, by the way, was supposed to be about the American election. I don't know how it became this, but yeah.
Middle-class candidates will be accepted. This rightfully doesn't happen. People should be hired based on ability and being the best person for a job, regardless of whether they came from an economically disadvantaged position or not. Unalterable characteristics like race or gender should not be a factor. But likewise, one could argue...
Yeah, they shouldn't be a factor. The problem is, they are a factor. We know this. We know that black people get like less callbacks for the exact same, we call them CVs, curriculum vitae, resumes in America.
Yeah.
We know that happens. There have been studies which have conclusively proven that. I think I read one which said that there was a difference of 6 years of worked experience in terms of the number of callbacks for a traditionally white sounding person on a list, but as opposed to a black sounding name. Literally the same resume. 6 years.
Yeah. And there's decades of research establishing this.
Yeah.
I mean, this like it's not a controversial claim at all. The jury is not out. Like, we know that these kinds of biases exist. and that they affect people's lives, and that they're a product of prejudice and of systemic inequalities that can be corrected. You know, like it doesn't have to be this way.
No.
But, you know, apparently it does for Dave.
Yeah.
Argue that it's unfair that a person is born with no legs and has to use a wheelchair. Why can't those people have access to all of the same career opportunities as fully able-bodied people? Well,
outside of things for which there is a physical need, like, say, firefighter or something like that, yeah, why can't disabled people have access to that as well? Like I say, there are physical requirements for certain jobs, but if you're just going to exclude people because they've got no fucking legs from general employment or whatever, like, that's obviously fucked up. What is the point he's trying to make here?
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like if you follow the logic of the argument that he's making, I mean, he's making the equivalent of an argument saying, well, you know, people who don't have legs or can't walk shouldn't be allowed to have wheelchairs. Because like what Kamala, because what Kamala Harris is saying in that video is like we should recognize where there are inequalities that are keeping people from meeting their potential or having a good quality of life or being treated fairly, and we should try to make up for those inequalities.
Yeah.
So if you have a disability and there's some accommodation that you can take advantage of so that your life isn't as negatively affected by the disability, like say if you can't walk, having a wheelchair, that seems like exactly the kind of thing Dave's complaining about.
Yeah, exactly.
Why should you get a wheelchair?
Exactly, which is an
interesting...
interesting...
that's just the way you were born. It's just natural.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Which is an interesting kind of argument for Dave to make, because Dave wears reading glasses. Which, you know, I mean, why are you trying to level the playing field? Nature gave you slightly defective eyes, Dave. Deal with it.
Yeah. It's natural.
Pull your eyes up by their bootstraps. Why are we giving you handouts of corrective eye lenses? Like, come, it's so silly. It's so absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Because they can't. It's unfortunate, but it's also not the fault of the able-bodied people, and they should not have to be in any way restricted or undermined in order to achieve a contrived equity outcome. In order to achieve equity, there must be actual discriminatory policies that keep down the best performers and suppress open and fair competition.
There is racial discrimination. We know this. There is sexual discrimination.
Exactly.
We know this. There's discrimination against any number of different things, like sexuality, gender, all kinds of stuff. Literally, you're arguing in favour of Donald Trump, who has tried to ban trans people from having fucking medical access and stuff. Like, motherfucker. Yeah, it's so disgusting. God damn it. Sorry. That was a meme.
He's the kind of guy who would complain. He's the kind of guy who would complain about you know, like public buildings installing wheelchair ramps. Somehow that would offend him personally. Like, why should able-bodied people be forced to walk around wheelchair ramps? Like, it harms you in no way. It does absolutely no harm to you at all. But somehow, you know, it's like you take it incredibly personally.
Yeah.
That people who are less fortunate than you have been given a little bit of a hand.
Yeah. In most cases, unless it's a very steep staircase, in which case it's a shorter journey, it's actually better to replace steps with ramps anyway, because they're better for people who walk as well. They're easier to get up.
Yeah.
Which, again, can be helpful if you're perfectly fit, or if you're someone with like a walking cane or a slight limp or something. You know what I mean? Like, what? Yeah, he is one of these people who would complain about something that doesn't affect them. Same with the gay marriage thing. Unless you think it's going to be made compulsory, why are you opposed to it? If you don't want to marry someone of the same gender,
exactly,
don't. Like, that's it.
Yeah,
that's the end of the conversation. But,
literally rigging the game in order to achieve equality of outcome. Not everyone is equally as talented, hardworking, committed, strong, or intelligent. In an equity outcome society, there's little...
and that's the dog whistle. White people, white able-bodied cis men, are just better than you. That's the only explanation in Dave land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's so threatening about it?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like again and again for the supremacists, allowing an actual level playing field would show that you're supreme. Because then there would be no excuse. There would be no excuse for anyone underperforming in that situation, or any group. Individuals have all kinds of circumstances. But if the white people were still on top in a level playing field, that would show you were supreme. So by all means, unless you know for a fact you wouldn't be. So, anyway.
Little to no incentive to strive and work hard because it's not rewarded.
It's about giving people the resources and the support they need so that everyone can be on equal footing and then compete on equal footing.
Well, competing on equal footing is fine. Everyone has the right to compete, but don't expect everyone to end up in the same place.
And this is the annoying...
She's not.
This is the annoying fucking thing, right? Where they say, like, it's equality of opportunity versus equality of outcome. To which I always respond with, okay, so you're in favour of a 100% inheritance tax then? Because how can Donald Trump inheriting $1 billion or whatever the fuck it was, or getting a small loan of $1 million in fucking, what was it, 1969 or something ridiculous, which would be worth a fortune, for, especially... I'm guessing he didn't pay an enormous amount of interest from his dad, but anyway, whatever.
No, probably not.
How can that be the same as someone fucking living in the projects? Like that's not an equality of opportunity on any fucking level.
No.
So we're saying there's already a stacked deck, Dave.
And nobody is making that argument. Like, I've never heard a single person argue, especially not like in the Democratic Party and especially not in like the mainstream of the Democratic Party. Nobody is arguing that everybody needs to finish in the same place. Nobody is arguing that like either everybody gets a mansion or everybody gets a hovel.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Well,
like that's not the way it works.
Well, he's going to equivocate it because she says everyone equal treatment means we all end up in the same place. But then she doesn't literally mean every single person. She means that if you're given a level playing field, the joke I made earlier about the white supremacists, if you are on a level playing field, you could prove you're supreme. Well, they wouldn't, because it would be, you'd have like an equal number of black people who would get wealthy or powerful or whatever, and you would need systems in place to make sure they don't accrue their wealth all the time, because, that's what we're seeing right now with like Jeff Bezos owning everything in the world, I think now. I don't know.
I think pretty much.
So it's, and again, this is two people. So they're saying when they end up in the same place, they're saying you will, everyone will benefit from that, and everyone will become more prosperous because of that.
Well, and if you mean like end up in the same place in terms of like in the eyes of the law, or in, like there are certain areas where people are supposed to be treated the same, like in the justice system.
Yeah.
So, correcting for that bias, correcting for that inequality, that's actually exactly what we want. Is for everybody to be treated the same, like, and again, to have the same chance at a fair shake.
Yeah. And America, that doesn't mean imprisoning more white people. It means imprisoning less people in general, but just like to make it sort of equal,
exactly. Yeah.
Because I can see people doing that. I can see Republicans coming out going, yeah, fuck it, let's imprison some poor whites as well. Fuck it. Yeah. That'll level the numbers up.
Why not? There, you happy?
Yeah, exactly. An equal number of an equally ridiculous number of white people are now in jail as well.
Like, yes, thank you. You addressed our concerns.
You're welcome, liberals.
What the percentages are right now? Oh yeah, oh wow.
Yeah, there's 70 million white Americans in jail.
Yeah, thanks a lot. That's just what we were hoping you would do. God.
Equitable treatment means we all end up at the same place.
See, that's just a nice video.
Yeah.
Equitable treatment means we all end up in the same place. Yeah, it does.
At the same place, not in the same place. Which, I mean, is
outrageous.
A small distinction, but I think is worth making.
Yeah.
Because they're not saying, look, they're not saying everyone gets a mansion. That's not the point that's being made there. It's a cartoon. Not just that, but he's reading so much into a cartoon of people climbing a hill. Like, it's so silly.
I know, like it's like that's going to be like an actual policy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We've got to make sure that the ground rises so that everyone can reach the rope. Imagine that. Imagine putting that policy document forward. That'd be amazing. That'd be some dumb shit Trump would actually say, though. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could see him writing that in crayon.
Yes.
Communism, which is all about
communism
outcomes, means that everyone ends up in the same place, which is to say brought down to the same level. Not up to the same level, down to the same level. Everyone ends up equally poor, equally unable to own a property, equally hungry. But hey, at least we're all...
Also, can I just point out, Dave, you shouldn't say the owning the property point. Again, I'm not standing for the Soviet Union. Fuck that noise. But I will point out they didn't have homelessness. So, yeah, they couldn't own property, but they weren't... Like, in America, isn't there something like 600,000 people homeless?
Yeah, yeah.
That's a reasonable size city. That's a pretty decent sized fucking city of homeless human beings in the richest nation ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Madness. Oh, someone in the chat, this is completely unrelated, but Grealish, who's an English footballer, he actually went to the same high school as me. So, just a little nod there. Many years after I'd left, because I am a fat old man now, and he's a athletic young scamp. But there we go.
All equal, right? And of course, wouldn't you know it, the video is race baiting, pandering to black people, claiming that they need help to compete with the white man. Unreal. Nothing about this cartoon.
Him saying unreal means that isn't true. That's an argument, apparently.
He's so offended on behalf of black people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You can just tell how it's just so outrageous to him how insulting this video is to black people, and he really is upset about that.
He is. That's definitely his main concern. That's the thing driving him making this video.
Yes.
Is he's so upset.
How dare you be so patronizing to black people?
Yeah, exactly. Now let me tell you why white people are just more intelligent and able than all of you. Yeah. All of you people who I definitely respect. Yeah, absolutely.
It makes sense. Equity outcomes completely destroy natural competition and throw talent and meritocracy out the window in order to keep everyone down. This is why communism is so totalitarian and brutal. Tyranny is needed to enforce mediocrity across the board, and greatness becomes impossible. Freedom is antithetical to a society built upon equity outcomes.
This is just pablum. This is word salad.
I mean, greatness is impossible for him, but for a completely different reason.
Yeah, exactly. That actually is just nature, actually, Dave. You're just...
Right. Like, what's your excuse when there's nothing holding you back?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I mean, well, biology just let him down, you know? It's a shame.
Yeah.
People who work harder than other people, who have talents that other people don't possess, should be permitted to strive to achieve their full potential if they choose to. If they choose to. If they also choose to waste their talent, their time, and their lives, that is also their prerogative.
Now, I think you and I are both content creators on YouTube, as indeed is Dave. I think we can all agree that is a fucking waste.
For real.
Yeah.
For real.
But he's literally saying, if people choose to waste their life, that's terrible, whilst he's wasting his fucking life. Okay. Oh, whatever.
I mean, yeah.
I would be surprised if he didn't edit this in his underpants, is all I'm saying.
But somebody who
thank God he's not wasting
years.
His life.
Yeah, exactly. This is productive. He's made a cartoon of himself and is now ranting on the internet about how George Soros is stealing an election 5,000 miles from where he lives. Okay, brilliant. Well done.
Works hard and pumps every waking second into building their business should be permitted to enjoy the fruits of their labor. The people who don't work as hard should not be given rewards that they didn't earn.
If you're poor, you just didn't work hard. Because poor people don't work hard. We know that for sure. Yeah, that's definitely.
Oh, of course. Poor people don't work at all.
No, exactly.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Jeff Bezos works 1 billion times harder than the people he forces to piss in bottles for him. Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yes, yeah. No, I think we can all agree that nobody works harder than Jeff Bezos.
Exactly, yeah. He deserves his 19 mansions.
He of course, he's earned every penny of it.
only people who benefit in these kinds of socialist and communist utopian societies are the already extremely wealthy and powerful.
I told you,
as Milton Friedman said, a society that puts...
And I love that. The only people who benefit are the already wealthy and powerful. Unlike now, because under capitalism, that's not the way it works. Obviously, everyone's just... Yeah.
Thank God the world isn't like that.
I know, that'd be terrible.
Wouldn't that be terrible?
Imagine if someone who was given everything in life and was elected to the highest office in the free world based on him just being a rich guy who people know off of the TV. That would be terrible if that kind of thing happened. But thankfully, we don't live under the communisms, so it's okay.
Yes, thank God.
Equality before freedom will get neither. A society that puts freedom before equality will get a high degree of both. To conclude this video, I just want
to point out, he's quoting Milton Friedman, who was like an economic advisor to Augusto Pinochet. So I don't know that we can take the word of that man on freedom too brilliantly closely there. Now that's basically the end of the video, but I did just want to point out, in case, I mean, because I know, Steve, you are, I think it's fair to say, a certifiable geek.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, he's got this other show, but he also does an analysis, and I've not watched this, I don't know if it's good or not, but the final flight of the Enterprise D, I can only imagine he thinks that Riker is a communist or something. I don't know. But that might be a thing you might be interested in.
Probably. Since he is clearly a right-wing nutbag, I'm sure his interpretation of Star Trek is fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure it's super big-brained. Anyway, let's stop looking at that fool, shall we? Anyway, so I'll stop presenting now so your face is back on the screen, hopefully. Boom! Oh, fucking good at this. God damn, I'm good at this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so, yes, how do you think... Do you think the salt will ever stop flowing, first and foremost?
For some of them, I don't think it ever will. I mean, honestly, like, I think for some of for some Trump supporters, I think this is just something that will always be, they'll always be convinced that they had something robbed from them here, you know. And I mean, for Trump personally, I think, because let's be honest, he doesn't have that much longer anyway. Like, I was going to say, like, Trump will take this to his grave, but I mean, like, that's going to be a few years. So that's not like that, you know, it's not like he's going to live another 30 years and he's never going to let it go.
Steve Shives is threatening to assassinate the president of the United States.
I mean, what would be the point now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It's like going into the fucking critical care ward and killing someone. Like, it's too late. Stop.
Exactly. Just give it time. You don't need to do anything here.
Yeah, the Reaper's got us on this one. It's fine. He's got our back.
Yeah,
it's all good.
But no, I think what I think will happen is eventually, at least I hope this is what happens. Eventually, we'll just stop paying attention to it.
Yeah.
And once most of them notice that they're not being paid attention to anymore, that it will sort of fall back. But I think a lot of people are, they're not going to get over it, because you know, they've been convinced so completely that something has been stolen from them. And, you know, like how do you argue a person out of that? Like, how do you convince someone that QAnon is bullshit when they have already accepted it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, what rational evidence can you cite to persuade someone away from a position for which there is no rational evidence to begin with? Like, how do you convince someone that Trump lost an election and there weren't millions of stolen ballots or illegal ballots or whatever? I mean, there's no reason to believe that in the first place. So if you've already gotten to that point, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say to you, you know?
Well, exactly. To use the old skeptic refrain, you can't reason someone out of a position they didn't reason themselves into. Seems
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So how does this play out? Do you think? I mean, I think we discussed earlier that the coup probably won't happen. So do we think? I mean, I genuinely hope we get to see, and I will happily pay any amount of money to see this on pay-per-view. Donald Trump being physically dragged, kicking and screaming from the White House.
I agree with you. Saturday night, I paid $50 to watch a wrestling pay-per-view. I would pay that to watch 5 minutes of Trump being dragged out of the White House. I don't think it'll. I think what will probably happen is it wouldn't surprise me at all if he never actually formally concedes. But I think he will probably eventually vacate the White House, and I think he'll probably, because he said before that that if he lost, he wouldn't go to the inauguration, which I don't think broke anybody's heart. So I think it'll probably be, he'll leave the White House and Biden will be inaugurated without him there. And, they won't have like the little meeting that they usually have where the outgoing president welcomes the president-elect to the White House and they give him a little tour and have a photo op. Like, I don't think any of that's going to happen. But I think he'll probably just leave and then he'll go right back on his ego tour and probably, try to get on TV or continue to do speaking events or hold rallies or whatever and speak to his base of supporters about how he was robbed and how he's still their guy and he's still their voice and blah, blah, blah. And maybe even, I don't know, maybe he'll even talk about running again in 2024. But again, it doesn't make a difference because he'll be dead by then. Like Trump's not going to live to, Trump's not going to be alive in 4 years. Like the guy, he's apparently been binging on fast food since he lost the election.
Yeah.
And that's not going to help. I mean, I don't think he was in that great of a shape to begin with. And if he's living on like a 100% fast food diet now, like I don't think he's going to make it.
And in his 70s, that's not healthy if you're young, but if you're in your 70s, your organs are going to fucking fail, bro. What are you doing? Anyway, I mean, again, no, Donald, please continue. That would be funny. Anyway, yes. Yeah. So he'll probably never concede and all the rest of it. Do you think there's any possibility that he starts this new news network that's been mooted, or possibly like buys a stake in OAN or something?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if something like that happened. I don't know if he would start his own channel or if he would invest in OAN or just basically take a position in the company or become like a regular contributor or come to some kind of deal where he gets, they get exclusive interviews with him. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if something like that happened. Because I mean, I don't know how much credence to give this, but you've heard it for years. People have said that was his plan for 2016, that he didn't actually expect he was going to win the election. Yeah. He was just hoping that he could use it as a launching pad for him as a political figure, and then he could start a TV network or get his own political show or something like that. So no, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he tried to do that. I mean, God knows there's a market for it. I mean, God, just Yeah. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay. So, and is it worrying if you've still got a boner 9 days later? I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah, I think you should probably consult somebody. I mean, I don't know though. I mean, because you've had like 9 days of continuous stimulation.
Yeah.
I mean, like if you got the boner 9 days ago and then whatever gave it to you sort of went away, but you still have the boner, that's a problem. But if you've been consistently stimulated the whole time, that's probably fine. Wouldn't you think? I mean,
yeah, exactly. Well,
I would think so.
I'll tell my friend that's.
Tell your
fine.
friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell your friend that, and in the opinion of a person with no medical expertise, that it's probably fine.
Well, this is the internet, and if Ben Shapiro can go on about fucking wet pussies as if they're some weird aberration, then I think it's fine.
Oh my God.
I think it's absolutely fine.
I mean, isn't it wonderful when they self-own like that?
No, that was beautiful, yeah. That really was something.
Oh, he's like, wet. I mean, my wife, who is a doctor, says that vaginas aren't supposed to get wet. Okay, Ben, your wife is being so nice to you right now.
Yeah.
She is sparing your feelings in a way that you cannot understand.
And that you don't deserve, frankly. You're an awful human being.
That you don't. It's like oh no, don't worry, honey. It happens to lots of guys. It's that.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, it's like she's just being nice to you because she doesn't want to hurt your feelings, Ben.
Yeah, it's pretty embarrassing. But anyway, so what have you got coming up on your channel? Pimp yourself out and all that jazz.
Oh, well, I've got tomorrow night is my my Ask Away live stream where I answer questions from the audience. And then Monday, I have a video going up that I made with my friend Dana about Batman, which is going to be fun. And then also Monday night, I have the second episode of a new interview series that I just started last week. And I will be interviewing Ina, who is the host of the Polite Conversations podcast, about her new miniseries that she's working on, about her sort of move away from new atheism and specifically Sam Harris, which called Woking Up, which I would highly recommend. She's posted 2 episodes of it so far, and they're both really interesting. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And just a lot of Star Trek shit.
Yeah,
that's what's coming up.
That's fair enough. I like the fact that you've leaned into it, because you've always been a standard nerd, but in a nice one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but that's good. Anyway, so thanks for joining me. Well, thanks for joining me 4 years ago. Thanks for joining me 9 days ago, and thank you for joining me tonight, Steve. It's been quite a ride.
Of course. Yes, it has. Yes, it has. And the ride continues, my friend.
Absolutely, yes. So, thank you. Thank you to everyone for watching. This has been amazing. And we've got one more episode to go. I'll be joined by Christy, who, frankly, is after the Lord Mayor's show. Let's be honest. Steve was the big ticket, and I'm slumming it with Christy tomorrow. Outrageous. I know.
Oh, now.
No, that's just a joke for me and Christy. It's fine. Anyway, no, because the thing is, Christy's slumming it with me. That's the thing. That's the actual truth of the matter. But I've got the microphone and she hasn't right now, so fuck it, why not? Yes. 7 p.m. UK time tomorrow, 8 p.m. Central European time, 2 p.m. on the east coast of Americana, land, and 6 a.m. in Fiji. Go Fiji. And fuck Trump.